Good Friday morning to you. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're looking forward to a great weekend. I got some playtime scheduled for my weekend, so I'm hoping to have a good weekend too. So anyway, but I hope you're having a good morning so far. I know it's early. I'm right on time, and the good news is, uh, I have air conditioning. That's great. They actually replaced the unit. I've got a brand new one. I slept so good last night for the first time, and I don't know how long. It was great. It's wonderful. So thank God for the small things sometimes, right? It seems small. It wasn't small. Anyway, uh, this morning, let's see, I put the link to my blog up. Don't forget to grab a study guide. You can watch the stuff on YouTube. We did our Bible study last night. I had a good time. You can go watch me have a good time. I don't know if anybody else did that was there, but it was really good. It was really rich. It was really good. Just the questions, the answers, the what do you think about this and what about that? Well, yeah, but what about that? And just talking about all that God has done for us. It was amazing. So anyway, I had a good time. So catch that either on my feed or in my videos or on the YouTube channel, which is where I put all the devotions. And probably this weekend there's going to be some new stuff coming up there. I've got some lots of stuff in my mind. Anyway, and in my heart that I just want to get out. But anyway, this morning as I was getting ready to for my personal time, I titled this writer's intent, and I for one of the jobs I work for, I am looking for the user's intent. So I'm looking at a keyword and I'm thinking if somebody's looking up that keyword, what are they looking for? So I want to build out the outline of an article for the writers, for the company, based on what I think the intent is. So hold that thought. So this morning I go into Upwork I get a message that I've got a message from a client in Upwork. So I go in and she's like, "Oh, I put some more stuff up for you to do this weekend," and I'm thinking, great, because I'm thankful for the work. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like, oh, I'm just trying to get caught up, and I can't seem to quite get there, right? And here's two more things to do, and that's okay. It's probably 2 hours worth of work. It's great. It is great, but I'm thinking great. So I type in great exclamation mark, and I thought, when she reads that, she's gonna read it great. I'll get on it this weekend. And yet my heart was saying, great, oh, put that on my list for the weekend and see if how come I gonna squeeze this in? Because like I said, I got some playing to do this weekend anyway. And so the relaxing, that's important for life, for our souls, right? For that mind, will, and emotions. Anyway, so even though I was typing great, she's gonna read great, and she's gonna think I'm so excited to go work on her project, which I am. I'm very thankful. And I thought, how many times do we read things in the Bible with the wrong inflection or the wrong voice, right? And so then I started thinking about Paul. So I've got two scriptures marked, but I may only do one. And I went to several different places because I was like, okay, I need something that is gonna I'm gonna be able to make this point that from where I took my devotions this morning, right? And so I found myself in Second Corinthians 11, and Paul is saying, you know, he's telling us all the things he suffered, and sometimes we read it like this: in labors more abundant, in stripes above measure, in prisons more frequently, in deaths often. From the Jews 5 times I received 40 stripes minus one. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. A night and a day I've spent in the deep, in journeys often, in perils of waters, perils of robbers, perils of my own countrymen, in perils. And we're just like, oh yeah, okay, I get it, Paul. You really went through a lot of stuff. But he was writing it from a real life point of view. He really suffered these things. It's not just an arbitrary list that he pulled out of the air somewhere and started writing down. He's saying, if I want to boast, and he's saying I'm being foolish, but he's saying this, you know, in labors. I've worked harder. Paul was a little Spitfire dude, right? And he's saying in labors more abundant. I've worked harder than anybody. It's kind of what he's saying. I'm not in a sinful way, right? In stripes, above measure. I had more stripes than anybody. I had stripes all these times. In prisons, more frequently. I've been in jail more than anybody. I've been spending so much time in jail. I don't forgot what it looks like on the outside, right? Uh, and I like this one. This is the New King James. In deaths often. I've died 6 times. We know he didn't. Well, actually, we know he was left for dead the time that they stoned him, right? And but sometimes we read all of these things he's talking about. He was in a shipwreck. He was stoned. He's been beaten with rods. He's faced death. He obviously didn't die, but because of the way we look at his character, we sometimes think he said, I died 5 times. Yeah, but he didn't. He's faced death. And we look at these things and it's sometimes hard to realize that this isn't just words on a page. It's not just black and white ink here. This is a life Paul lived. These are things he actually suffered because he was a believer. These are things that he actually went through. Because see, it's so easy to take our Bible heroes and go, well, it would be nice, and we say David killed the giant, but we forget the impact of that. David, little David, single-handedly, with God's help, of course, killed a giant that everybody else, why didn't the whole army just rush him? Why didn't nobody else would go out and fight him? David faced a freaking giant, you guys. And we can read that story and just go, David killed a giant. That's awesome. Daniel was thrown in the lion's den. Man, he's a man of faith. He was thrown in a den of hungry lions, yet God rescued him. And sometimes we miss the emphasis. So instead of getting great, we should be reading great. Right? And so we sometimes we miss the impact of what the writer was, and hopefully my client does think I'm excited to work on her project, because I want to work on her project. But sometimes we read things so, it becomes so, what's the right word, we become so comfortable with it, we forget that Paul literally faced all of these things. He didn't say some people are getting stripes, some people are being thrown in prison, some people have been beaten with rods, sometimes people are getting stoned, or been in shipwrecks, been in perils of waters, been robbed, been all the wilderness. I've been hungry, I've been thirsty. These things come on me, and he says, on top of all of that, I have the care of the church. That burden in your spirit to take care of, the nurture. And then he says this, who is weak and I am not weak? Who's human and I'm not? You see, we don't want to read that little part because as faithers, we don't want to talk about being weak. But when we read the whole thing and we read it with he's got blood on his testimony. Someone I used to work with closely in ministry always said that. You want to listen to those who have blood on their testimony. You don't want to listen to someone who's never been through anything, or acts like they've never been through anything, because everybody's been through something, right? And we look at this because then when we go on over into chapter 12, and Paul says, I've tried to get out of this 3 times. I have a thorn in the flesh. There's something nagging at my spirit. And I've asked God 3 times. I've pleaded, not just asked, with the Lord that he might take it away. So when Paul says that God told him, my grace is sufficient for you. My strength is made perfect in weakness. There's blood on that testimony. There's power behind that passage, that scripture, right? There's power in that, because we can look back over on the other side of the page and go, wow, he went through some stuff, and God's grace truly is enough to sustain our faith, to sustain us emotionally, to sustain our souls. He's the keeper of our soul. His grace, his strength is made perfect in weakness. And didn't Paul just say, who is weak and I'm not weak? See, I came out of that faith movement where we weren't allowed to say, I'm tired. We weren't allowed to say, I don't have it all together. We weren't allowed to say, I really need prayer today. I'm sick, or I'm not emotionally fit today, or my puzzle's not all coming together here. We weren't allowed to say those things. But Paul is saying, who's weak and I'm not weak? I'm weak. He's like, I'm weak. But when we can realize that we're weak in ourselves, then we can accept God's grace for our situations. Then we can understand His strength. Listen to that. His strength is made perfect when I'm weak. David faced Goliath as a little boy, as a young man maybe, with a slingshot and a rock, for crying out loud. I'm surprised he didn't bring the harp, right? He's facing with a slingshot and a rock, 5 rocks, because Goliath had 4 brothers, is what we've been told. And he stood there in his weakness. God was able to display his strength. That rock went to just the spot it had to take Goliath down. And as Lydia said in the chat, and David took his head off. He said, "You're going to make sure this dude is dead." But that was a real story. It's not a fable. It's not make believe. David, with the power of God, faced Goliath in his weakness, but God's strength took the giant down. Daniel I'm sure he was scared. He was human. Oh, I mean, he wasn't scared of death. I'm not afraid of death. I'm worried about the way I gotta die, right? I'm not afraid of death because I know it's gonna be my release from this world, and I'm gonna be with God. And I can't wait. But don't get me wrong, I'm not going to get on the bus to go home today. But I can't wait for that. I'm eagerly looking forward to the day I don't have this clay pot holding me in, and I can worship Him in just true freedom. And I'm learning some of that here, but I can't wait till I'm there, right? So Daniel wasn't afraid of dying. He wasn't afraid because he knew he was going to be with God. He knew he had God secured for eternity. But I'm sure he looked at those hungry lions as he went in going, "This is not looking good." But God's strength was made perfect in Daniel's story of weakness. God's strength was made perfect in David's story of weakness. See, we think, I mean, David was courageous, don't get me wrong, but he still faced a giant with just a rock and a slingshot, right? His weakness, though, God used his strength. God used his own strength to pull David through and to rescue his people and defeat the Philistines one more time. His weakness was in Daniel when he's sitting in the lion's den looking at all those lions that had to have been frustrated because they're like, "I'm so hungry and I can't get my mouth open." There's Daniel sitting there going, "I'm going to write this down. This is really good." Right? And the lions are going, "Man, what's wrong? I'm so hungry. My belly's growling. You don't hear my belly growling?" But that's the only growl they had because they couldn't open their mouth and eat him. They couldn't. But the interesting thing is, as soon as the people who accused him and set him up were thrown in, they were consumed immediately. So they were real lions, y'all. Right? And we see Paul facing these real situations and being able to say, "I'm weak." I've said that so much lately. I've just told God. It's not like he doesn't know. He's kind of waiting for that. He's kind of waiting for us to say, "Okay, God, I can't do this without you. I'm weak in this area or that area, or I'm weak all the way across the board. I don't have the answer to this question. I don't know what to do in this situation." Because when we realize we are weak without him, when we realize that we need his grace, man, he comes through every single time. His grace is sufficient for whatever we're facing today. His grace is sufficient to carry. It's enough, more than enough, to carry us through in whatever we face today. His strength becomes mature through our weakness. His strength becomes mature. His strength is already mature. So I have to read it like this because the word perfect in the Hebrew, most of the time, it means mature. Almost every time it's translated perfect, it means mature. It doesn't mean perfect, spotless, although it is spotless. His strength is made mature in my weakness. That means that I get the benefit. I get to let his strength grow in me and mature in me as I come to him with my weaknesses. I stand in my weakness and go, I don't know. I don't know, God. It's okay to not know. It's okay to go, I can't. I just can't. I need you. Because when we realize our need for him, we get the whole kingdom. We get all of his grace. We get all of his mercy. We get all of his peace. We've got to realize we need his peace before we can accept his peace and let it reign. We've got to realize we need his grace before we can understand how it carries us. So no matter what you're going through today, and I know people watching are going through some stuff, right? Take a deep breath, because you're either going through something, just came through something, or you're about to go through something new, right? Somebody's somewhere on that scale, right? God is there, just like He was there with David, just like He was there with Daniel, just like He was there with Paul. He didn't stop the bad stuff from happening, but His grace carried them through it to victory on the other side, right? His strength was made perfect in their weakness. Because, if you remember right, if you remember, it's in 1 Samuel, is it 22, where David faced Goliath and he says, "You come to me with a sword." He didn't say, "I'm coming to you with a slingshot. I'm really good at it." He said, "You're coming to me with a sword and a shield, but I'm coming to you in the name of the Lord." So we don't want to face our struggles with our little slingshot and what we can come up with. We want to face our struggles with His grace. We want to face our weaknesses with His strength and let it be made perfect in us so that we walk out of that lion's den. We may have to go through the lion's den, but we can walk out of that lion's den. We can walk out of shipwrecks. We can walk out of close encounters with death. We can be stoned, not that kind of stone. We can be beaten. We can be shipwrecked and know that God still keeps our faith and our soul intact because His grace truly is sufficient. So when I say have a great day, I mean it. Not great, great. Have a great day. Realize that His grace is sufficient for whatever's going on in your life right now. And He will take you through it when you realize your own weakness and your need for His strength to carry you. Have a great day. I went way over time. I'm so sorry. But I was just encouraging myself. So I let you listen in. Have a great day. Peace out. I'll see you in the morning.